Welcome to CRJ 134. This week we're taking a look at Chapter 4, which explores social structure, process, culture, and delinquency. Now, there are critical social factors that are believed to cause or at least to affect delinquent behaviors, and that's what really is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. So what are some of the social factors that you think cause delinquency? Maybe you thought about socioeconomic status, maybe racial disparity. But what about the impact that social change can have on delinquency? So the next part of this chapter moves on to a discussion of social structure and delinquency. And one of the key concepts related to social structure and delinquency is that poverty is linked to at-risk behavior. Now, social structure theories are the focus of the next main section of the chapter. And so after really presenting a brief overview of the different social structure theories, the chapter discusses each one of those in depth. Contemporary social ecology has its roots in the works of Shaw and McKay. So think about how community deterioration can affect delinquency. Think about areas where you live that might offer examples of that relationship. Some specific examples of disorganization that you may have seen in your own community could include problems at schools or chaotic schools. Maybe you have more liquor stores or more bars than churches. Would be some examples. Now, the chapter moves on to talk about strain theories, which believe that crime is a conflict between goals that people have and the means that they can use or have available to them to legitimately or illegally obtain them. Now, typically people hold the same values, but the means to achieve personal goals may be stratified by social class. Now, Robert Merton believed that without an acceptable means for obtaining success, people started feeling social and psychological strain, and so he termed that enemy. Now, Merton did also identify 5 different modes of adaptation to this enemy or to stress. One was conformity, another was innovation, another is ritualism, another is retreatism, and finally rebellion. Make sure you check out what each of those means in the chapter. Now, the chapter concludes that particular section on social structure theories by looking at general strain theory. And so when reviewing that theory, think about whether or not you agree with the suggestion that sometimes delinquency or crime can actually relieve someone's feelings of frustration and rage. Now, the third branch of social structure theory combines the effects of social disorganization and strain to really explain how kids living in deteriorated neighborhoods might react to social isolation and economic deprivation. Cultural deviance theory really looks at or believes that there is a unique lower class subculture that develops in these disorganized communities that has a unique set of values and beliefs that put the residents in conflict with traditional or conventional norms. Now, Albert Cohen's theory of delinquent subcultures explores what he calls middle-class measuring rods. Now, do you think that students today feel stress or pressure if they don't measure up to those middle-class standards? If so, how can we explain delinquency among kids who grow up in middle-class homes? How does white-collar crime fit into that picture? Is it even possible to view it from that lens? Now, moving on to social learning theory, social learning theorists believe that delinquency is a product of learning the norms, values, and behaviors associated with delinquent activity. So the chapter briefly reviews the 3 most prominent forms of social learning theory. The first being differential association theory, the second being differential reinforcement theory, and finally neutralization theory. Now, differential association theory was really an entirely new approach to the study of delinquency when it was developed in the late 1930s. And Edwin Sutherland really believed that delinquency was learned, much the same way that conformity is learned. And then when you look at neutralization theory, I want you to think about the techniques of neutralization that can be applied to different types of crimes other than just juvenile delinquency. Now, the last section of the chapter discusses social control theory, which maintains that all people have the potential to violate the law and that modern society really presents many different opportunities for illegal activity. So the central question in the theory is this: why do people obey rules of society? Think about what are some examples in your life or in popular culture that support Travis Hershey's claims, and what are some examples that might disprove Hershey's ideas? So really, when you're done with reading chapter 4, you should really be familiar with the association between social conditions, social structure, social process, and crime and delinquency. Now we'll take a look at chapter 5 next, which looks at social reaction, conflict, and theory.